KOPN Columbia 89.5 FM. My name is Mike Hagan, and this is Radio Orbit. I'll be back with you in just a few minutes.
Cell phone when you're riding around in your automobile. Don't push that button to call me when you're operating a motor vehicle. I'm slung in a hammock, smiling ear to ear between the trees. Don't call me on your landline when you're sitting in your prison cell. Don't call me on your landline when you're working retail sales. Call me when you're snowblind in the coldest winter of your mind. I'm waiting for the day when the power goes out, and maybe then we'll find something to talk about. Hey.
That's right. It's KOPN Columbia 89.5 FM. And as I mentioned, my name is Mike Hagan, and you're listening to Radio Orbit. Good evening. Welcome to the program, whoever you are, wherever you may be, whenever you might be listening. Yeah, welcome. Monday, the 24th of September, 2018. All right, before we get going with the program, big thanks to everybody before me today. Great radio here at KOPN on Mondays. Woody gets things going 3 to 5 every Monday with the Real Deal Country Show. And if you like country music, or if you don't, you might. So check out Woody 3 to 5 every Monday, Real Deal Country program coming to you on KOPN. And after that, we've got Left Ahead Radio, Tech Radio, with the guys talking about all the cool stuff happening in the world of technology. Of course, Kevin, after that, Jazz plus Blues equals Soul, and New Wave Radio Theater, just finishing up a little bit ago. Had a little problem with the feed there at the end, so I apologize for that, but that's the way it goes sometimes. Anyway, on KOPN, good music, good talk, good news. 11:05 on, again, the 24th of September. All right, my name is Mike, and this program is called Radio Orbit. It's the first time I've done the program in a long time, so I think I'll give a little background and let people know kind of what's going on, what they can expect on this radio show in the future, okay? So I came on the air here at KOPN in 2004, some 14 years ago, and began this program in August of that year, and was on the air till about, I guess the middle of the year or so, in 2008. And I've been off the air for quite some time, almost 10 years, and had my own reasons for that, and an interesting story that maybe we get into along the way here. But at any rate, left the program and sort of stayed peripherally involved with KOPN, but kind of removed myself from the public sphere in a more general sense. I was quite involved in a number of different things around town, and I don't know, for a number of different reasons, I just sort of removed myself from it. And KOPN and Radio Orbit were one of the things that were included in that. So anyway, it's 10 years later, and I decided that it was time to kind of rethink that whole thing. Life has changed and situations are different, and I decided it was time to come back on the air. And luckily enough for me, the people here at KOPN were welcoming, and after a little bit of work, was able to to get back on the air. So I sure appreciate it, and I hope that you guys will enjoy the program as we get going here. For those, there may be some of you who remember the show. 10 years is a while, but it's not that long. And certainly if you're my age. and so if you remember the program, it's going to be sort of a revamped version of what we were doing before. Certainly the world has changed, and I've changed, and, interests and all that sort of thing. But really, what we do here is, we got 3 hours, all right? So it's 11 till 2, and that's plenty of time for one guy to do some radio. So what I like to do is, I love music, and so one of the things that we'll do on this program is feature music typically from local, regional artists who are from these parts, and a lot of times I might know them, and times I might not, but regardless, I'm interested in featuring music that is unique to this part of the country and to our sort of neck of the woods here. So with that in mind, tonight, anyway, we'll feature the music tonight of Paul Weber and the Scrappers. And like I said, we got 3 hours, so I'll be talking a lot because Paul and the Scrappers don't have that many songs. But we will sort of weave their music throughout the program tonight. The first one we heard there just a minute or so ago was called "Don't Call Me," and actually you can call me if you'd like to. I think later in the program we'll probably open the phone lines here. I don't have a guest for tonight. Typically I would do an interview, and down the road we'll do a lot of that. We'll actually do sort of long, in-depth interviews with people. But tonight, really don't have anything like that planned because it's sort of an introduction to, or a reintroduction, I guess, to the listeners out there to this program. So anyway, what we do here is we pick one musical artist every week, and we feature their music throughout the whole program. So you won't hear anybody tonight other than Paul Weber and the Scrappers. And if you like them, you're going to have a real fun time because we're going to talk about a lot of cool stuff in between. And if you don't like them, well, you just have to turn it off every 20 minutes or so for about 3 minutes, okay? But anyway, great stuff from local artists, Paul Weber and the Scrappers. And they have not actually been around the scene for that long, just a few years actually, but done some great things in my opinion since they've been doing it, and they're one of my favorite bands around town and around mid-Missouri these days. So we'll feature the music of Paul Weber and the Scrappers tonight, and like I said, in between we'll talk and do some news, and we'll do a feature that I used to do. I think I'm going to keep doing it. It's called Space Weather. So we'll talk a little bit about what's going on outside of the confines of this planet. and we'll do some technology talk, and we'll have a little memorial where we talk about some people that aren't any longer with us here, and then we'll open the phone lines and let people call, and we'll talk about whatever you guys want to talk about, and it'll be interesting to see who calls. The last program that I did I think it was like June the 19th of 2008. And when I started the program, it's funny when you do a talk show, because if you actually take phone calls, one of the most frightening things is to open the phone lines and have nobody call, because for obvious reasons, it's just nobody's listening, or they don't care enough to call. So when I first started the program in like 2004, I would do that. I would open the phone lines and no one would call. So I would have to sort of prepare for that eventuality. The first time you do it, you don't prepare. You always figure, oh, someone's going to call for sure. And they don't call. Oh man, I better do something, put on some music or whatever. But anyway, tonight, I guess about 45 minutes from now, we'll open the phone lines, and if you don't call, I'll be prepared. If you do call, I'd love it though, and we can chat, and you can tell me whatever's on your mind, and we'll talk about whatever. The number here, just in case you're gonna think about it later, is 573-443-8255. 573-443-8255. That'll get you on the program here later tonight. So just jot it down somewhere. I'm not quite ready yet, because I got a few things I want to say, but at any rate, later tonight we'll be able to talk, hopefully, with some of the listeners out there. All right. So anyway, at the end of the run there, when I finally left the air, going off in the middle of 2008, and the last program I did, I opened the phone lines and lots of people called. So it shows that. If nothing else, you got to keep at things. Nothing comes quick, nothing comes easy, and if you want to do something, stick with it, because it might take a while before somebody gives you a call. All right, so that's basically what goes on here. Music, news, a lot of high-tech stuff. We're going to talk about emerging technology, artificial intelligence, robotics. A lot of computer-related stuff, man-machine interfacing type of things, transhumanism, psychedelic drugs, designer drugs, I guess. Some of the things that the scientists are coming up with now. Anyway, that's the sort of stuff that we're going to kind of focus on here, without being real strict about it. We'll talk about kind of whatever we want to talk about, but those are the things that I'm sort of interested in. I'm a mathematician by training, and I have a great deal of interest in the natural world as well, and I know a little bit about physics, and so all those things will kind of creep their way into the program, and hopefully we can come up with some stuff that is enjoyable and interesting to the listeners out there. Okay, for tonight, like I said, Paul Weber and the Scrappers will be playing some music for us. With regard to guests, I will not have a guest tonight. It'll just be me and you, and sort of a reunion in a way for me. It's been a long time since I did this program, and I really enjoyed it while I did it, even though when I stopped doing it, it was necessary and time to do that. But just like now, I think it time to bring it back. There's a lot of inspiration for in other words, the reason that people do things, and those things change over time. But for me, they really sort of haven't. There are a number of people who I'm probably going to talk about later in the program who inspired me to do this to begin with, and even though none of them are here now, they sort of also inspired me to come back and get back at it. So anyway, it's a pleasure to be back on the air doing Radio Orbit, and it's we'll see how things go. All right, the station here, I want to mention something about KOPN, just because, again, this is sort of like a pilot program. I'm going to talk as if none of you have ever heard it or don't know anything about me or the program, and or the station for that matter. And KOPN is a community radio station, been on the air now for some 45 years, one of the longest lasting community radio stations in the country. You know, back in the 70s when this whole thing got going, there were tons of them. There was a community radio station in every town almost. Now there's very few left, and certainly very few with the sort of scope and heart that KOPN has. And even though I've been off the air for a number of years, I've always been a supporter of the station, and I'm still thrilled that that KOPN is on the air and doing well. And with that, I should mention that we had a pledge drive just recently. Last week, I guess it finished up about a week ago, but at any rate, we raised a lot of money for us. You know, everything's relative, but the fall pledge drive a couple of weeks ago raised about $35,000. Maybe some more coming in after that. We have an ongoing challenge with the Corporation for Public Broadcasting that will allow us to receive an additional like $70,000, like a grant of $70,000 or $72,000 if we can complete a number of tasks and challenges that are necessary for us to get that grant. But I think we're actually going to do it, and it's because there's a great group of people here at the station that are committed and recognize the value of what's going on here. And there are also a great deal of people, or a great number of people in the local community that recognize the same thing, that KOPN is a valuable resource and an asset to the community. It's a remarkable place here. If you're not familiar with the station, just great music, great talk, and national programming as well, international programming, all kinds of stuff, and all kinds of different things. And one of the hardest things about KOPN here is figuring out what it is you like and when it might be on the air, because it is quite different from programming slot to the next slot. And you might hear something that you maybe don't dig that much, and then if you wait an hour, you'll hear something that you totally love. So it's a matter of kind of getting familiar with the station. You can go to kopn.org. There's a list there of all the programs, the schedule, and if you see something that you think might tweak your fancy, give it a chance, because there's a lot of great stuff here at any given night. And any given hour of the day. Okay. All right. So KOPN, I love it. I'm proud and pleased to be a part of it, and back at it here. So, all right. So what else do we have to say here before we play another piece of music? I think we'll do that. We'll play another song here by Paul and the Scrappers, and then we'll come back and we'll read a little bit about the news and see what's going on in the emerging technology news, and then we'll go from there. All right. Once again, it's Mike. You're listening to KOPN Columbia 89.5 FM. It's Radio Orbit. This is Paul Weber and the Scrappers, and the song is called Stepping Stone.
You said I was your rock. Now I know what you mean. Rock on the ground under your feet. Now you're gone, and it's too late. I'm on the ground, you're on your way. Well, there's an old cliche said I was your rock. Now I know what you mean. Rock on the ground under your feet. Now you're gone. It's too late. I'm on the ground. You're on your way. Well, 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. You stepped out and you never came back. There's no use in me begging you to stay. You said I was your rock. Now I know what you mean. Rock on the ground under your feet. Now you're gone. It's too late. I'm on the ground. You're on your way. Yes, I'm on the ground. You're on your way.
Oh, yeah. I'm on the ground. You're on your way. Paul Weber and the Scrappers. That is called Stepping Stone. One of my favorite records of the last couple of years and one of my favorite local regional bands. If you're not familiar, check them out. Paul Weber and the Scrappers. Paul Weber up front playing guitar and harmonica and doing most of the vocals. You got Dave Durnley helping out on the guitar, Jesse Mudd on the bass, and Justin Hickerson playing drums for that band, and they're fantastic. And all those guys, do a lot of different things. All of them can play with lots of different people and do. But that's a great project that came together a few years ago, and I'm sure glad that it did, because good stuff, and we're going to hear some more of it throughout the program tonight. Okay, once again, that's Stepping Stone from Paul Weber and the Scrappers. And we had a pledge drive, like I said last week, and a bunch of these guys donated shirts and CDs and koozies for beers and all kinds of stuff that were given to people who pledged to the station. So again, thanks for all that stuff. It does make a difference, and people actually do love to know that they are part of something like this, and also able to get something sort of special for it, something from a band member or a T-shirt or a CD or whatever. It's just something to commemorate the thing, and it's cool. So anyway, for all the guys and girls that donated stuff, and so that we could give those things to people that pledge to the station, we certainly appreciate that as well. Okay. Once again, it is about 11:25 on the 24th of September, 2018, and you're listening to Radio Orbit on KOPN Columbia. Let's talk a little bit about the news in the tech world. There's a cool story from Japan. They have a satellite that was launched to try to rendezvous with an asteroid, and they actually were successful doing this. So there's some pretty cool imagery up on the web, but here's a little bit about the story, okay? Japan's house company, JAXA, has made an historical pass by efficiently touchdown by making an efficient touchdown of 2 robotic explorers on the floor of an asteroid. The 2 small rovers, which had been dispatched from the Hayabusa 2 spacecraft on Friday, will move across the 1 kilometer wide house rock generally known as Ryugu. The asteroid's low gravity means that they'll have to hop throughout it, capturing temperatures and images along the floor. Now, I won't read any more about the story. You can go check it out online if you're interested in it. And as a side note, I will say that a lot of the stuff that I'm going to talk about, I'll feature up on the website. There are 2 different websites that you might want to just bookmark, but MikeHagan.com, that's my name. So MikeHagan.com, it's Hagan. And if you go there, you'll kind of see just sort of like a current page of what's going on the program, currently. The archives, though, will feature everything that's ever been done on the program. You can listen to all the old shows, or you can download them in MP3 version and share them with your friends or whatever. But anyway, all that stuff is up there on the website. So at MikeHagan.com. But I started a forum that we might use for discussion and to share news and information and ideas and stuff up on Reddit. So if you go to Reddit, just search for Radio Orbit, RADIORBIT. There's only one O in that. Treat it like one word, okay? Radio Orbit with the O in the middle. At any rate, go to Reddit and search for Radio Orbit, and you can find the forum there. And that's where I'll post a lot of these stories that I'll be talking about on the air, okay? So anyway, the Japanese landed this spacecraft on an asteroid that's only a kilometer wide. I mean, it's a relatively small rock in cosmic terms. And not only did they were they able to land a vehicle on it, they were able to launch a couple of little rovers, little drone things that are sort of surveying the asteroid and are hopefully going to send back some interesting data and information about it. Now, I mentioned earlier in the program that I'm a physics guy, and for me, it's pretty remarkable that these guys can actually do what they did. You have to remember that even though it doesn't really feel like it, the Earth is moving very quickly through space, and it's spinning, and at the same time as it's spinning, it's also moving with the rest of the solar system through the local galactic region, but everything is moving and everything is spinning. And that also goes for this asteroid, this little 1 kilometer wide asteroid that these guys were trying to and did accomplish to actually land a vehicle on. But everything's moving really fast and spinning. So in order to calculate how to get your vehicle from here to there is a pretty complicated piece of mathematics. And on paper, it's complicated, but to actually do it, I mean, it's way more complicated. I mean, the mathematics on paper is one thing, and that's that's hard enough to do. But to actually do it in the physical is a pretty damn remarkable stunt. So definitely going to give a shout out and a bow to the Japanese men and women that were able to pull this off, and I'm looking forward to seeing what comes from it. For me, the data that comes from the mission will probably not mean that much. I mean, unless it's a really remarkable asteroid, which I doubt. I mean, it's really just made up of the stuff that everything else is made up of, and just essentially a big rock flying around in the local neighborhood. But to be able to put some hardware on it, to me, that's the accomplishment, and I think that's pretty cool. Imagine taking a rifle or something like that, or a bow and arrow, or a sling, or any kind of thing that you might throw, a baseball, and then try to make contact with another object. And in this case, you've got a small object that has to intersect with a larger object, but neither one of them are that big in a larger sense. I mean, the robotic craft is very small. I mean, you could fit it in this studio, and the little drone guys that are flying around that asteroid now, I'm sure, are much smaller than that. And the asteroid itself is only 1 kilometer wide, or I mean, certainly not round, but anyway, so just a couple city blocks. It's not that big, and it's moving at really high speeds, right? So like between 20 and maybe 50,000 miles an hour, and the Earth is spinning, fast and moving. I won't dare to guess, even though I've probably read it at some point, how fast the Earth is actually moving through the local environment. But the point is, they're both moving real fast, and for us to be able to figure out the mathematics first of all, and then actually do that in the physical, wow, impressive and cool. So yeah, the Hayabusa 2 satellite and their drones that were accompanying the launch, incredible, and good work. And then maybe we'll find something else interesting from that asteroid. But if nothing else, certainly shows that we're able to make that sort of a rendezvous. Really cool. All right. Okay. What's next here on my list? Google's forced sign-in to Chrome raises privacy red flags. I'll read the first couple paragraphs here, but I'm sure you'll get a load of what's happening here. Chrome users are now automatically signed into the browser if they're signed into any other Google service, such as Gmail. So, an update to Google's Chrome sign-in mechanism could clear a path to compromising the privacy of users' browser data, according to a researcher that stumbled across the change. Matthew Green, a cryptographer and professor at Johns Hopkins University, noticed that his Gmail profile picture strangely and suddenly appeared in his browser window, and it changed. That's generally a sign that a user is logged in. However, he hadn't actually signed in, which for him threw up a red flag, and this led him to parse out the latest update of Chrome, which is Chrome 69, and he discovered a change that going forward, and I quote, every time you log into a Google property, for example, Gmail, and there's a bunch of other ones that you're not aware of, and me too, I'm sure, Chrome will automatically sign the browser into your Google account for you. Now, that may or may not seem like a big deal, but if you know some of the underlying stuff of what Google is doing, I mean, it might be at least a little bit disconcerting. The software is designed essentially to track everything that you do while you're logged in, and in fact, the Tech Radio guys who do a program at 6 o'clock on Mondays, so they were on the air about 5 hours ago. But anyway, those guys have talked at length over the course of many years about the collection of private information and the stuff that is happening online, whether you think it is or not, whether you know it is or not, it actually is. And Google is one of the the poster child for gathering data on you. It's interesting, the word Google. Okay, so Googen in German means to look, and I'm sure that's why the name Google was chosen originally, because Goog, G-O-O-G, if you say that auf Deutsch, if you say that in German, Goog, du guck das, it means look at that, or look at this. So Google is a German-based word, and that's sort of interesting. But anyway, they use the word on their users just like the users use their service. So Google is used by people to look for stuff, and it's very effective. Google is remarkably effective. I have tried to wean myself off of Google and use other search engines, but they're not as good. I hate to say it, but it's just true. They're just not as good. And in fact, they're not nearly as good. I mean, if I found something that was even close, I would probably be able to migrate my research and stuff over there, but I can't do it because that's where it's at. And I think that the arguments against Google with regard to information and the way that they sort things, I agree that they definitely have their algorithm that only allows certain stuff on the front page. But if you have the audacity to dig a little bit deeper, it's there. I really don't think that they scrub. I really don't think they scrub stuff. They just have an algorithm that rates things and decides what's going to be on the top 20 or the top 100 that you look for. Now, your ability to design your searches and the parameters for your searches is just as big a deal. That's a skill as well. So you have to be able to ask the right question, and you have to know what you're looking for specifically. And I think that if you can do that, you're going to get good results with Google. The problem is that they're logging every single search that you do. And it turns out that even if you don't have Gmail or a Google account, that they log things by IP address and things like this. It's a pretty interesting and sort of scary state of affairs, because we all live now in this sort of panopticon where it's hard to know if you're being listened to or if you're not, or if you're being filmed or if you're not. If you just walk around the streets, just day to day, your afternoon stroll, or just going to work or coming home from lunch or whatever, the number of cameras that are filming you would probably frighten you to death if you actually knew. I mean, we don't think about it, but they're everywhere. Every gas station, every bank, and they're on every corner. And there are many more that would seem maybe less obvious, but there's a whole lot of recording going on, and I think that more and more we're starting to become aware of it, and it actually affects your behavior. The cell phone or the smartphone, quote unquote, that we all carry. It's a great invention and a real handy device and a great tool, actually. If you use it the right way, it's a tool. You can access the World Wide Web, and you can find information, and you can do stuff that it used to be very difficult to do if you were somewhere outside of your home or a library or away from established civilization or something like that. The cell phone now, the smartphone, it's remarkable. It's like magic. I still am fascinated by how it does what it does. But a television is a remarkable thing. The fact that that electromagnetic waves can just move through the air and be reassembled at your TV screen, and then you can see whatever it is, the show that you want to watch. I mean, the radio, same thing, right? Electromagnetic waves moving through the air, literally, between me and you, wherever you are listening from. It's just moving through the air, and that's what we say on the air, when we're on radio. And anyway, it's crazy, and the science and the development of technology behind all of these discoveries that happened. Most of the major discoveries happened in the late 1800s. Between 1850 and 1910, I mean, everything happened And since then, it's really just been a development of the things that were discovered then. I'm generalizing to a certain extent. I mean, we obviously have the technological development of history, which means fire and the wheel and language and the ability to actually communicate ideas to one another. But as far as technological advancement goes, man, a lot of that stuff happened in the second half of the 19th century and then into the early part of the 20th century. And electricity, of course, being the real the monster, the discovery and the eventual understanding of how to use electricity is really something else. And without it, we're gone. It's it. We talk about a lot of things, the troubles that humans have or humans might face. There is nothing greater than the loss of the ability to generate electricity. It's something that everything now is based upon. And of course, computers are sort of built upon that. The whole world runs now on computer technology. And of course, computers run on electricity. So, the whole world really has become an electronic sort of panopticon. I used that word before, and I use it, and I'm sort of got off track. But when I was talking about cell phones and our smartphones, they're like tracking devices. We're all consenting. We're all consenting carriers of our own tracking devices. And maybe not all of us, but those of us who carry smartphones. And even the people who say, well, I just use a flip phone, so they can't, I'm sorry, they got you too, okay? If you're involved in the technological world, Google and the NSA and anybody else who has the tech, if they choose to, they can find out what you're doing and what you've done, and probably predict pretty well what you're gonna do. It's a strange thing. The word panopticon comes from an old story. I believe it had to do with a prison scenario, and the idea was, how do you control a prison population when you don't have nearly as many guards as you might need, and it's a more difficult situation to kind of keep people under wraps. And I forget the guy who kind of came up with the idea, but the idea was to put cameras everywhere, just put cameras everywhere. And even though the prisoners, they couldn't, they knew there were cameras everywhere, but they didn't know if they were being filmed or not, right? So, but even the thought, even the idea that you were being filmed, that you were being watched, changed the behavior, right? So if everybody knows that there's a chance that they're being watched, not that they're being watched, but that there's a chance that they're being watched or being filmed or being listened to, it'll change their behavior. And it was actually quite effective in the prison sense, because obviously prisoners are going to be penalized, and probably, that's probably a real nice way to put it. They're going to have negative consequences if they do something bad, and if they think that they're and let's not even use the word bad, if they do something against the rules, and if they do so and they think that there's a chance that they're being filmed or being watched, there's a much greater chance that they're not going to do it. So this, I think, now has sort of moved into the general social sphere, where there really are cameras everywhere, not just the ones on the corners of 9th and Broadway, and at every gas station and every bank and every convenience store and every grocery store. They're also in everybody's pocket, and people are being filmed all the time by who knows who, and there's really, I mean, I don't see what can be done about it at this point. But it really does, I think, change behavior. I think people act differently when they think or they know that they are being filmed, or that they could be being filmed, or that they could be being listened to. These, the smartphones that we carry, there's been all kinds of stories. If you look into the news, and again, you'll have to dig a little bit, but you'll find out that many of these devices are essentially on all the time, even when you turn them off, and they're transmitting location information, sometimes video information, sometimes audio information. In other words, you don't know if the camera's on, you don't know if the microphone's, I mean, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Everybody is downloading apps like crazy. Every time you download an app, you agree to the user, the agreement that everybody clicks OK on for everything, and it's usually pages and pages of legalese that very, very few, I imagine, have gone through and actually read. And I think that every time you click OK, we're probably giving away something that maybe you wouldn't want to. Who knows? I mean, honestly, you don't know when you sign that Snapchat agreement. You don't sign it, but you click the yes, I agree to the to the user agreement that they put up there. Maybe it says, Snapchat has the right to use the camera on your phone and the microphone, even if your phone is turned off and you're in bed and you have no idea what's going on. I mean, I don't know if there's anything like that in the agreement. If there is, it's probably hard to discern. Even if it says it in English, you're still going to have to tease it out. But my point is, we are so, we have no hesitation, or very little hesitation to agree to who knows what, for all the apps that we download and we use. Who knows who owns them? Who knows who is behind the development? Who knows what the agenda is of the people that developed it and who they worked for? And so, you really, at least for me, I mean, I've sort of given it up. I don't even sweat it. I sort of assume that I'm being watched and listened to all the time. And in a way, if you do that, if you can get used to that, then you can sort of not care about it anymore. It's almost the only way to go, because if you're worried about it and wondering when you're being listened to and when you're not, and thinking that you know the difference between the two, well, I mean, I don't know. Good luck with that, because as far as I can tell, there's no way to know. So I just, I figure the best way is just to just not even sweat it. And I figure even if I am on the wrong side of the road, here and there, that's the way it goes. And maybe the people that are listening will learn something, or maybe they got bigger fish to fry or something like that. So anyway, we are definitely living in the age of digital surveillance, and there's really no way around it. If you want to leave and go live in the woods, I guess that's about the only way. But even then, don't tell anyone, because they'll tell someone, and then we'll know where you are. And eventually the panopticon will find you. All right. We got about 5 or 7 minutes or so before the beginning of the hour, for the top of the hour. And so let's go back. And I didn't mean to dwell so long on Google and the privacy issues, but I guess I did. So here's another one here that I thought was kind of interesting. I'm in manufacturing. I've worked in factories for most of my adult life. And I have slowly seen machines take the place of humans. And I'm certain that this is a trend that is going to increase and become more relevant. So I'm looking at a story here from the CBC up in Canada. And let me read a little bit to you here. All right. More than half of all workplace tasks will be carried out by machines by 2025, organizers of the Davos Economic Forum said in a report released Monday, highlighting the speed with which the labor market will change in the coming years. The World Economic Forum estimates that machines will be responsible for 52% of the division of labor as share of hours within 7 years, and jump from just 29% today. By 2022, the report says roughly 75 million jobs worldwide will be lost. But that could be more than the offset. Okay, so anyway, so it's a huge thing, the advent of robotics and artificial intelligence in the workplace, in manufacturing in particular. As someone who's been in it for a long time, I get it sort of, because I'm a quality control guy. And my job, when I'm not here at the radio station, is to make sure that the stuff that my factory produces is the same as what they say they produce. So that's the job of all manufacturing, is you want to actually do what you say you do. But, machines don't work perfectly, and people don't work perfectly, and no design is perfect, and nothing on this world is perfect. So things go wrong sometimes, and you have mistakes are made, and things break, and machines go out of calibration, and lots of things can happen that will ruin or at least muddy up the manufacturing process. So anyway, I've been in this business for a long time, and the human factor is a huge deal, because most of the machines that we run require human beings to operate them, even if it's just push a button to make a part, or if it's more complicated than that. And whether it's something that you agree with or disagree with, the owners and operators of manufacturing plants and factories and operations around the world, ever since manufacturing began, have wanted to minimize the number of people that have to work for them and maximize the amount of stuff that is done automatically without the intervention of humans. And there are a lot of reasons for that. And the first one is that machines don't have bad days. They're not fickle. They either work or they don't. As long as they're maintained correctly, they'll do what they're supposed to do, and they will do it over and over and over again, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They'll do it. Human beings, they will do a lot of the time what they're asked to do. But as the employee of a company, as the employee of an organization, they have, the option, frankly, the free will to do what they want to do. So they can do the job correctly. They can do the job incorrectly. They can not do the job at all. They can purposely do the job wrong. I've actually worked with people like this that actually, on purpose, because they got sour grapes about something. They actually, ruin things on purpose. Most of the time, it's just a boredom or lack of interest or ignorance or just drank too much the night before, whatever. But these things affect humans, and they don't affect machines. And so I've seen in my own the organization that I'm a part of over the last 20 years. I've worked for them for a long time, and our production has gone up considerably, probably 2 or 3 fold, 2 or 300% in the last 15 or 17 years, and our workforce has gone down by about 50%. We have 50% fewer workers than we had 15 years ago. Yet the company is much more productive than it was, and that is absolutely because of the integration of robotics and higher technology that literally does it does stuff that people used to do before, and again, it's a bitter pill to swallow sometimes, but they do it better. They don't require vacation. They don't get sick. Their children don't get sick. They don't have to leave early because of that. They don't have bad days, like I said before. They don't drink on the job. They do exactly what you program them to do, and they do it until you tell them not to. So this is a global phenomenon. It is not going to slow down. It's going to increase, and it's going to be really interesting to see what we come up with for people to do. It used to be that that was the one thing that people asked for from. And it's sort of ironic in a way that people actually demand work. We that's all we want, and we're going to vote for the guy that's going to give us jobs. And really, it's not because people want to work. It's because that's the way they get money. Most people, unless they're doing something that they love, would rather do something else than work. The only people that work because they like to are the people that are working out of love. And most people are working because they have to, and there's a paycheck, and they can use that then to maybe take care of their families, maybe take care of themselves, and maybe, if they're lucky, do something that actually will bring them some enjoyment that their job really doesn't bring, So that's sort of where we are, and in my opinion, I think the goal should be to not work. And somehow be able to take care of ourselves without working. Yeah, that sounds like a stretch, right? Okay, let's play one from Paul Weber and the Scrappers. It's the top of the hour, straight up midnight on now the 25th of September. You're listening to KOPN Columbia, 89.5 FM. My name is Mike Hagan. This is Radio Orbit, and this is Stainless Steel.
Stainless steel won't corrode when exposed to the wind and the rain. It shines all the time and it never needs a coat of paint. When the years rain down on our love, it will be glistening still. 'Cause ever since the day we met, it's been stainless steel. Stainless steel, you know it's real. What we feel, you know it's real. Stainless steel. Well, the elements that make up our love, baby, they're rare on earth. When you put them all together, it just multiplies what it's worth. It's the kind of thing every petty thief wishes he could steal. 'Cause ever since the day we met, it's been stainless steel. steel. Know it's real. What we feel, you know it's real. Stainless steel.
Yeah, that's right. Stainless steel. You know it's real. It's coming to you right now live on KOPN Columbia 89.5 FM. My name is Mike Hagan. This is Radio Orbit. It's just a few minutes after midnight on the 25th now of September, 2018. Big shout out to my buddy Johnny out there in Denver. And I hope to come out and visit you real soon, my friend. Hopefully October. Me and Hoff are going to come out there and see you. And hi to your friend there as well. Also, I'd like to say hi to a couple other people online that are listening. It looks like I got some friends and family out in Colorado, Columbia, Missouri, here up in Chicago, down in Texas, a couple people over there in Germany. Shout out to my buddy John in Australia. And anyway, good to have you all with us, and good to be here with you, okay? Paul Weber and the Scrappers, okay, great record. I hope they have something new coming out soon. I think they're going to be doing some more recording, maybe not this year, but hopefully, in the next year or so. I will actually, I said I was going to open the phone lines after midnight, and it is after midnight, so I'm going to do that. The number is 573-443-8255 if you want to call and talk. And, I also had a bunch of other stuff that I was going to talk about. Before I came on the air tonight, I was a little bit nervous and had a little bit of reluctance, because I was like, oh my God, am I going to be able to do radio for 3 hours again like I used to do and just talk and stuff? And so I had all this stuff, and I thought, hopefully I can do it. And it turns out I've got a bunch of stuff that I was supposed to do in the first hour that I had planned to do between 11 and 12 that I didn't do. So I guess I'm not going to have a problem filling the time here. So anyway, if you want to call, I'd love to talk with you. And in fact, if there are any scrappers out there, or Paul, I'd love to have you guys call in and say hi and let me know what's going on with the band, and if you've got anything coming up for us in the future. In the meantime, there was a section of the program, or a component of the program that I used to do, that was called Space Weather. And although there are a number of things with the show that I'm not going to continue because it just sort of, don't work anymore or are no longer relevant, something like that, Space Weather, I think, still is. And so I'm going to do that tonight, and I'll do that right now. So the reason that I would like to do Space Weather is because I like to remind people that we live in a much larger system than we normally kind of pay attention to or are sort of aware of on our day-to-day basis. We get up, we do what we do, we go to work, we don't go to work, whatever we do, we do it right here on Earth. And because of the nature of social media now, and the absolute rush of information from all angles, it's just a constant stream of information, whether you like it or not. You're getting it from all over the place. And I don't know, for the individual, to me, it's just like almost overwhelming. And one of the things that I use to sort of ground myself is to remember that we are in a much larger system than we think about on the day-to-day. The Earth is certainly here, but it's also part of something else. And there are other planets that are circling the same star, and the star is doing its thing. And what happens on the sun changes all the time. In fact, right now we are, I don't know, we're a good ways into solar minimum, which for people who like to watch the sun will understand is a description of a type of phase that the sun goes through. We've been watching the sun as scientific people for about 500 years. Galilei was probably the first one to really start to document some of the things that were happening on the sun. And he was the first one to put a telescope on the sun and be able to do it with a filter, where he was able to see sunspots and this type of thing. But really, in a longer time sense, I mean, the fact that we've been looking at the sun for 500 years is really just a very short period of time. The scientists tell us that the Earth and the sun and the system have been here for some 5 billion, with a B, 5 billion years. And we've been watching the sun for about 500. So certainly I understand that there are some things that we have learned, and we can sort of count on. This 11-year solar cycle is a pretty interesting one, but I also know that there are larger cycles that we are not familiar with, just because we haven't been watching for long enough. If there's a cycle that involves every 10,000 years, well, you got to watch it for 20,000 years before you can even recognize, that it's a cycle. So as much as we know about our star and our local environment here, we really haven't been studying it, with any kind of real understanding for very long. And so, to me, it's still interesting that we're just on this rock. We're on this ball that is just spinning around in space, and it is spinning around another big ball, and that ball just happens to have the right chemistry to send out a whole bunch of appropriate energy that allows us to look at that ball. The conditions for life on this planet, remarkable. And although the scientists will tell you, it's not that remarkable, it's just something that's probably happening in lots of other places around the universe. Well, the truth is, this is the only place we've ever seen it, and I'm still fascinated by that. It's a miracle one way or the other. The fact that we're even here and able to recognize that we're here and talk about it, and then actually try to do stuff about it. There are plenty of other living creatures. We got plenty of other organisms that are alive, but they're not doing what we're doing. They didn't build Manhattan, and they didn't write Milton. So there is something special about the human, and whether it's good, bad, or ugly, I guess we can't say. We're not responsible for the fact that we're here. Sometimes I get a feeling, especially over the last, actually many of the years that I've been off the air, there's a general tendency among humans to blame humans for everything that's going on. It's like, and it's really ironic. It's like, you got a bunch of human beings running around saying how bad all the human beings are, and that we're just ruining everything, basically, right? Just the freaking humans are just ruining everything. But of course, the humans are the ones that are saying this. It's just completely, just strange and ironic to me. And I would like to remind the humans that we had nothing to do with the fact that we are here. We have nothing to do with our own genetic makeup. We have nothing to do with the way that we're designed. We did not design ourselves. Human beings came into a scene that was going on long before we got here. According to all the humans that say they know, right? In other words, all the evolutionary biologists, all the geologists, all the anthropologists, everybody who's supposed to be so smart, they say that this thing was happening long before we got here, for billions of years. Yet somehow the same people say we're responsible for everything. It's all our fault, And to me, that's just sort of shit for brain thinking. We aren't responsible for it. We're doing the best we can in a situation that we had nothing to do with. And we also have nothing to do with our own cognitive abilities. Yes, okay, you can read a book and get smarter, or you can go out and do, see the world and, do whatever it is you might do to increase your level of understanding and enlightenment or something like that. But you know what? You can and you can't. There's only so much you can do. And it's really frustrating, actually, and many humans have been frustrated before me. But to be frustrated is one thing, and to act like it's a different thing is something completely, it's another thing. It's frustration and delusional thinking. They don't particularly go together. Delusional thinking avoids frustration. So, and there's a whole lot of it. So. Anyway, I don't claim to know what's going on, but I also know that nobody else does. And I've had a sort of a saying for many, many years that if you hear somebody that does tell you they know what's going on, that's a good signal to run for the door. Because we are all in the middle of something that is an absolute mystery. And it's a thrill and a burden, and also, an adventure and a nightmare at the same time. And you never know when any particular aspect of it is going to show its head. Life can be just wonderful, and you're just like Paul and the Scrapper said, just skipping on down the road, and then everything went black. Things can happen really quickly. Things can get sketchy and go sideways on you or anybody else or the world very quickly and without any real notice. And to be honest, that's really what in my opinion shows the true nature of a person. When things get sideways and things get weird, how do you respond then? It's easy to be cool when everything's cool. It's easy to be a good person when everything's good, when you've got it made, when everything's going well, sure, no problem. It's when things get a little bit sketchy and when things get a little bit rough and when things get a little hard, how do you respond then? As an individual, as a country, as a culture, as a society, that's really what it comes down to. And you never know until it happens. You really don't. And even as an individual, you just don't know how you're going to respond to something until it actually happens. Now, I will say that it's beneficial to sort of go through scenarios in your head, because if you've thought about something, if you considered, any particular scenario, you probably got a better angle on it than if you hadn't considered it, because obviously if you put some brain power on it for a while, you can kind of think about it and kind of get a feel for it. But the bottom line is, it's a crazy place, and none of us really know what's going on, and we don't know what the next day, minute, hour are going to bring. So you make the best of what you got while you got it. Enjoy your life as best you can. If you're not enjoying it, try to make it better. Do what you can. Love the people you love. Don't be afraid to say it. Don't be afraid to have some fun. Don't be afraid to go out and see some live music. And there's a lot of that around here. Great art and music scene here in Columbia, Missouri. I'm so thrilled to be a part of it this weekend coming up. We got the Roots and Blues Festival coming up, and for the first time in many years, I'm gonna actually go to the Roots and Blues Festival, and lots of great acts that'll be performing there next Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But even when that's not going on, there's a lot of wonderful stuff happening around Columbia here. We're so fortunate to live in a community that has so much going on, really in many different areas of endeavor. You've got an incredible education scene here, not just Mizzou. You got Stevens, you got Columbia College. The public school system here is actually quite good, and this is coming from a person who can't stand public education. And I'm absolutely appalled by what's happened nationally in the last 25 years. There's a book. If you haven't listened to me talk on the radio in the past, you'll find out that I just sort of ramble and take a lot of side trips and stuff. But there was a book written many years ago that was called The Deliberate Dumbing Down of America. And it was written by a woman named Charlotte Iserbit Thompson. And she was the former director of education for the United States government in the late 80s, early 90s, I think. But anyway, the book, The Deliberate Dumbing Down of America is, it's a seminal book. And if you're somebody who has children or are a teacher or an educator of any sort, you should be aware of that book, because it documents straight away. And by document, I mean documents. It's not hearsay. It's actually documented. The actual slow slide of legislation that really destroyed public education, and with an intention, with an agenda to lower the average intelligence. And of course, if you think about it, those in power love lower intelligence among the population. The dumber the population, the better off you are, because you can pull off whatever it is that you might want to pull off. And I think that no matter where you live, you have a sense that, well, our government is different. Our guys and girls are different. The stuff you hear about the Russians, and the stuff you hear about the Germans, and the stuff you hear about the Swedes, and the stuff you hear about the Argentinians, that goes on in those countries, but it doesn't go on here. Well, the truth is, we're all subject to propaganda. All of us, in all of our locations, no matter who we are. I can guarantee you that the local establishment is, they're putting out information that isn't particularly accurate, and they're doing it for their own benefit. And unfortunately, this is just part of the deal. And you can wish all you like for honesty in journalism and all this, but man, that train left the station. It's over. And frankly, it's very difficult to discern what's going on, what the truth is, if it's outside of the sphere of your own personal experience. In other words, if something happened to you, you were in the room, that's the first and most relevant set of data. It happened. It happened to you. The next best set of data is information that comes from those who are very close to you. People who are your best friends, your closest family, whatever. People who you actually trust and you love, and that they're going to do their best to tell you the truth. You have no reason to think that they would lie to you. And so the further away information gets from your circle, right? First and primary is your personal experience, and then the experience of those who you are close to. And then after that, it starts to get real loose real quick. And it becomes very difficult to know what's going on in an age where audio technology is extremely advanced, and you can make stuff sound like somebody said something when they didn't say it. I'm a radio guy, and I'm a decent audio engineer, and I have access to some relatively simple software here at the radio station, and that other people have access to, and with just a little bit of gumption and and some ambition, I can take audio from people that I've spoken to. Let's say I did an interview with somebody, right? Or let's say somebody called on the telephone right now. And I encourage you to do that, as a matter of fact. The number is 573-443-8255. Please give me a call if you'd like to talk and say hi. But any recorded conversation now can be manipulated because the technology exists to sample the voice and then do a whole bunch of stuff with it. And you can, I mean, even the old school stuff, you could do essentially cut and paste, But now you can actually do mimicking and all kinds of stuff. There's a frightening application that that's been developed that I've gotten a little bit of information about maybe in the last 6 months. It's called Fake App. And I'm actually going to pull it up here and see what the current version is. We're going to have to find this out, okay? And maybe during the next program, I'll do a little bit more research and find out if this has been scrubbed or not. But Fake App was a mobile app that was a digital app that was used to modify both still images and video. And so you could take a video of anything. Let's say, you took a clip from a movie that you like. And with this application, you could superimpose your face or the face of somebody else that you had maybe some images of, and then those images would be incorporated into a new video that would look just like the old video, except the faces on the people in the video look you and your friend or whatever, okay? And now this is not like old time when you can just sort of like, cut the face out and just sort of paste it on. I mean, it's totally legit, and you cannot tell the difference. It's extremely realistic. And even though I just did a real brief search here, I would think that it would come up right away. Anyway, the thing was called, the one that I was familiar with was called Fake App. That was it, Fake App. And yeah, you could actually, you could take moving or still images and literally make it look like it was somebody else. And that's not the first time I've seen something like that, in the last 10, 15 years, but it's the most effective one. I've never seen anything like this. It was really, really good. So my point is that information that comes from outside of your sphere, outside of your own experience, outside of your own friends and family, you got to really take it with a grain of salt, because it's very likely, or just as likely as not, that it's not true. In fact, it could be completely manufactured. And it's being done. I mean, you can go out and see evidence of it all the time. So I don't know what really, I'm not sure I have an answer for it, but I guess what I think my response to that is that you have to live close to home. If you concentrate your concern in the area that you live, your local community, and it's one of the reasons why I do community radio, because this is where it's at. This is where my experience is. I don't know what's going on in Washington. I hear all kinds of things. I don't believe any of them. I have no way of knowing, and I'm not going to waste time concerning myself with them. What I'm going to do is concern myself with the stuff that I do know that's going on, and that's the stuff in my own circle here, my own tribe, here in Columbia, Missouri, and Boone County. If something goes on around here, I know it. I've either seen it, or I can be very comfortable that somebody very close to me that I can trust has seen it, and then I'll give it a much more higher level of legitimacy, of credence, because it's too easy, to just either make something up, or to say something, or to manufacture something that just isn't true. And I think that the solution is to bring it back home. Take care of the things that are happening around you, in your circle, with your friends, with your tribe and make that good. Make that right. Keep that safe. Keep that secure, comfortable, happy, and we'll be better off. All right. Okay, it's about the bottom of the hour, so we're going to play another one here from my buddies Paul Weber and the Scrappers, I should say. And up until now, I've played the first three in a row. So we're going to jump to the seventh track of this record, because it is about our neck of the woods and our tribe. So this is a song about the Midwest. It's Mike Hagan and KOPN Columbia, Radio Orbit. Be back in a few minutes.
1, 2, 3. Folks around here work till they die, filling up the silos up in the sky. It's been that way since it began, trying to make a living on the land. Tired old drums, tired old dogs, musty old trailers, firewood logs. A good way to live, a hard way to go. Country shrinks, the cities grow. People fly over, people look down, the big green fields and the little gray towns. Going to work, going to church, doing what we know, what it's worth. People fly over, people look down, the big green fields and the little gray towns. Going to work, going to church, doing what we know, for what it's worth. Little towns where life moves slow, people come, but mostly go. Kids they leave, grandmas don't, say they'll visit, but they won't. Land goes up, people sell farms, up go the houses, down go the barns. Clear the trees, pave up the roads, brand new cars, mortgage loans. People fly over, people look down, the big green fields and the little gray towns. Going to work, going to church, doing what we know, what it's worth. People fly over, people look down, the big green fields and the little gray towns. Going to work, going to church, doing what we know, what it's worth.
All right, yeah, that's a song about the Midwest. Paul Weber and the Scrappers. Hope for more from them next year or so. And it is Mike. You're listening to Radio Orbit on KOPN Columbia 89.5 FM. And the phone number here is 443-8255. That's area code 573 443-8255 if you want to call and become a part of the program. I would love to hear from you and say hi. This is the first time that Radio Orbit has been on the air since 2008, and I'm glad to be back with you. A little bit rough here getting going, but you got to start somewhere. And speaking of space weather, before the break there, and I I guess I should sort of wrap that up. But we live in a big thing here, and there's a lot of stuff that's happening outside of our space. And so I like to talk a little bit about the sun, what's going on there, and we talk about near Earth asteroids, things that might be zipping by, perhaps interact with our little play that's going on down here. And anyway, right now, not a whole lot to talk about, actually. I said it was solar minimum earlier in the program, and that's really just a period of time when there's not a lot of activity on the sun, and it goes through this period every 11 years or so. So anyway, we'll do that every week or every other week when we do this program, okay? All right, what else? I haven't spoken much about why I'm actually doing this show or why I started to do it, and now's a good time. We got a phone call here, so let's do that first. Hold on. KOPN Radio Orbit. Hello, who's this?
This is Deborah.
Oh my gosh.
I caught you on your first night, so I just wanted to say hello.
It is so nice to hear you. I was wondering, I wonder if Deborah's still out there.
Barely.
Well, honestly, it's very good to hear you, and I hesitate to speak openly because we are on the radio, and I'd like to speak with you privately, but I will say this to everybody who is listening. I've known Deborah for many, many years, and I haven't been in touch with her probably since about the time that I went off the air about 10 years ago, but she was a very loyal listener and one of the most intelligent and sweet women that I've ever known. So it is a great pleasure to say hello to you again. And wow, like deja vu, huh?
Yes, it is. It really is. Hearing your voice, it just takes me right back. So I appreciate that you have taken a program, because there's just something, it's not hypnotic about your voice, but the things that you talk about and pull out of the air kind of bring out other things that come up from the deeper well in me and make me think of things too. So I just wanted to say hi.
Well, I'm sure glad you did, and I won't be doing it every Monday. I'm going to be doing it every other Monday for a while.
Okay.
There's another gentleman who is sharing the spot with me for now, but I think we're both looking for something. As soon as something else opens up, one of us will probably take, the next thing that opens up, and this will end up being a permanent spot. I'd love to keep doing the Monday night thing because it's just like what I used to do, and it's funny. Deborah, because for me too, to be back up here, it's familiar walls, and it's just weird, but it's cool too, and I'm really glad to be doing it again. And I'm gonna have some really cool stuff for you. I haven't, this first night I figured I'd just kind of say hi to everybody and reintroduce myself, but I've got some real cool interviews and stuff. So.
I wanted to let you know that I used to see you at a lot of different places, a lot of different venues of the music, all the different bands and all the different kinds of music, and I started getting injured all the time, under cover of crowds. And I put up with it for a couple of years, but it got to me where it's just so bad I just left everything. So I'm not on the grid, I'm out here in the country, and I just have a life that's more connected to the nature around me. I'm a great-grandmother. There's just a lot of things that have changed for me, but then deep down my spirit's still the same. And evidently I resonate with you because I caught you.
It's crazy, really. I love it. And I really do. I'm really glad that you called. And in fact, you're appropriately the first one to call. And hopefully we'll get some other people after you. But it's great to hear your voice. And so 2 weeks from now, make sure you listen in and we'll have something cool to talk about, all right?
Yeah, and thank you for what you said. And I also enjoy Aquarius.
Yeah,
that really adds to my day.
Yeah, he's on, I think that's the earlier program before Woody. I think 1 o'clock until 3 o'clock on Mondays. And I forget the gentleman who does that program. Do you know what his name is, Deb?
Well, he calls himself Kevin. I don't know if that's his real name,
okay,
but it's Kevin.
All right, so that 1 o'clock until 3 on Mondays, Kevin doing Aquarius. So, all right, Deborah, it's great to talk to you, and I hope to talk to you again in a couple weeks. All right.
All right.
Take care of yourself. Bye. Wow, that was really awesome. And it's hard for me to put words onto that. That's really a remarkable thing that Deborah was listening and that called. So, okay, once again, the number 573-443-8255. Love to say hello and get you involved in the program. In the meantime here, I will talk about my friend Kent Stedman. There are three people who really sort of inspired me to begin this program years ago, and they're still the ones that I'd like to tell you about now, because they're really just, special people, mentors, teachers, friends, and just just my brothers. And the reason that I call this program Radio Orbit is because there was a man whose name was Kent Stedman who ran a website for many, many years. In the early days of the internet, I came across Kent in 1997, and he had already had his website up and active for at least a couple of years before that. Anyway, his site was called cyberspaceorbit.com. And, pardon me, I had to get a little drink of water there. But anyway, so I came across this guy, Kent Stedman, in 1997. And the only reason I found him was because I was searching around on the Usenet at the time, and this was in the early days, like before there were forums and Reddit and social media and all that stuff. It was really just a bunch of bulletin boards and email, where people would be part of like email groups. You'd be like a group email and stuff like that. So anyway, I was really interested in solar research. I've always thought the sun was, such a interesting thing. And anyway, I was looking around on the internet for other people who were sun bugs like me and who were interested in information about the sun. And I came across this one Usenet forum, and somebody on there said, hey, you should check out Kent Stedman's site, this guy who does cyberspaceorbit.com. So again, this is in like 1997, 21 years ago. And I went to this place, cyberspaceorbit.com, and I was blown away. And over a relatively short amount of time, I had the courage to introduce myself to the guy who owned and operated the page. And this was back when everyone was using AOL, and AOL Instant Messenger was really the only way to do like text messaging. You didn't have smartphones then. So it was online, but it was basically like, if you imagine like the dialogue of your text message on your phone, it was that, but like on, it had to be on a computer screen, obviously, and it was through the AOL app at the time. So anyway, he and I began to chat over this AOL Instant Messenger, and anyway, we became friends, and eventually. He lived in Seattle, and I eventually went there to visit him, and he came out to Denver and visited me, and over the course of many years, we became best friends, and his family is still very close to me. Kent died in April of 2008, very shortly before I stopped doing this radio program, and in fact, his death was one of the reasons why I went off the air. I was extremely troubled, and it was a real difficult time for me. He was one of the most important people in my life, and certainly one of the most important that I've ever known, and someone who I still look back on with great joy, and I'm so pleased that I was able to have him in my life, But anyway, he was the coolest guy, and I interviewed him many times. And if you go to the website, I've kept my website up, all these years. So MikeHagan.com. It's real simple. Just go to MikeHagan, HAGAN.com, and it might look old because it is. And I did my best over the last week or so to kind of update the website because I knew I was coming back on the air. But the important stuff is still there, and that's really all my archives, and that's all the stuff that I did, between 04 and 09. And all the interviews are there, and there's like 200 of them. But there's probably 10 or 12, maybe not that many, but there's probably 5 or 10 with Kent Steadman, and he was just a shaman, a medicine man, a wizard. He was just a very, very cool person, and somebody who knew a whole lot about a lot of different things, and he taught me a lot of the things that I know, and I love him and I miss him a lot. But he's the guy that originally kind of got me to do this radio show. When I came here to Columbia, I moved here to Columbia from Denver, and he said to me one time, what's it like in Columbia? I had been here for like 6 months or whatever, and I was just recently married and sort of a new life here, coming from Denver and sort of kind of reinventing myself out here in Missouri, and he said, what's it like out there? And I said, well, it's what it is. I got my job and I do this and that, and me and the wife are doing all right and all that. And he said, anything cool going on, in media or music or anything like that? And I said, well, I did find this really cool radio station. I said, it's a very unique and, just a cool radio station, one like I haven't heard before. And he said, yeah, really, why? And I said, I don't know. It's just, they got all kinds of weird shit, and and it just, a lot of different stuff, and you'll hear one thing 1 hour, and then an hour after that, you hear something completely different. And I said, this is really cool, And he said, well, you should get a show there. And I said, what? And he said, you should get a show there. And I said, what are you talking about? And he said, well, anyway, he gave me a bunch of reasons why he thought that I should. And so eventually I did. And it turned out to be a really great experience, and something that I really, really enjoyed doing. And I really got a lot out of, and I think that over time, some of the people that heard the program got something out of it too. And when I stopped doing it, I thought I'd never do it again. I thought that was it. Honestly, I thought that last show would be the last one. And it's been 10 years and a couple of months, and it's a lesson in never saying never. Situations change, circumstances change, people change, radio stations change, And anyway, so here I am on the 24th of September, 2018. It's a full moon, a beautiful night. The weekend was just gorgeous. Finally, a little reprieve from the heat, but just a really lovely time in mid-Missouri right now. So anyway, I'm really glad to be back with you. And like I said, it's a full moon. The equinox was just a couple of nights ago. I guess the actual equinox occurred on the 22nd. You never know exactly unless you're sort of watching really closely. Both the solstices and the equinoxes always fall like on the 21st, 22nd, or 23rd of those sort of corresponding months, depending. But because the calendar is so screwed up, you never know until, it will vary between the 21st and the 23rd. Some years it's the 21st, some years it's the 22nd, some years the 23rd. So anyway, the autumnal equinox was the 22nd, just a couple of days ago, and today's the 24th, and we got a full moon, and it's really been a beautiful couple of days. So it is about 10 minutes before 1 o'clock. I'll be with you till 2 o'clock, so we got another hour and 10. Yeah, so Kent Steadman, Cyberspace Orbit, I also maintain his website. So even though it hasn't changed since essentially the day he died, I keep it up and running, and it's still very interesting. There's a lot of things there that are still relevant. There are a lot of things there that aren't. but it's a historical piece on the internet now. Cyberspace Orbit was around, like I said, very early on, maybe 1993, and so as a memory and a monument to my great friend, the Bard, Kent Steadman, I keep Cyberspace Orbit up and running, and if you ever get a chance, just go pop on over there. It's still interesting even these days. Now, my website, mikehagan.com, I'm doing my best to sort of update it. It is not my greatest skill doing web design. I had a young man whose name was Larry Norriger. Larry was, I used to call him the webmaster, or the web wizard, I guess I called him back in the day. Anyway, the web wizard is also gone. He passed away in 2012 or 2013. And Larry, I sure miss you, and I'd love it if you were still around and could make my website look good again. But anyway, I basically have the same website that I had 10 years ago. I'm just sort of going to update the program archives, and I'll do my best to kind of make it bring it up to date. Okay. And with that in mind, if you go to the website, and again, it's Mike Hagan, HAGAN.com. If you go to the website and you're snooping around and you find something that's messed up or that needs to be kind of eliminated or updated or whatever, please don't hesitate to send me an email. My email address is orbitradio@aol.com, and you can also reach me from the website. There's a big fat contact button there, and if you just click on the contact button, it won't give you one of those stupid forms. It'll just take you to your email, and you just send me an email. So, and that also goes for artists and poets and musicians. If you have things that you'd like to share with me, that's one of the things that I like to do on the program is share art. And by art, I guess I mean all forms, or any form that you might imagine, and that includes visual art. Even though you can't see it on the radio, we can put it up on the website. Poetry, I'd be more than happy to read poetry if people will send it to me, and also post that stuff up on the website. If you have musicians, or if you are a musician and you have music that you'd like to share, as I mentioned at the beginning of the program, I feature local, regional musicians. I'm not going to play Stevie Ray Vaughan or Cody Jinks or anything that's like that. I'm going to play stuff that is independent, up and coming, local, regional, etc. And I actually, frankly, I don't really care if it's local or regional. I kind of tend to do that because this is where all my friends are. But if you have something that you'd like me to play, or if you'd like to talk about, please just send that to me in email, and I'd love to listen and talk with you about it. Okay. So, and the way we do it, you get the whole program. So one artist per show. Tonight we have Paul Weber and the Scrappers. We'll play another one from them in just a few minutes here at the top of the hour. But yeah, I figure it's kind of cool to sort of style a program around an artist, and sometimes it works real well. Sometimes it doesn't. But the idea is, to have some cool music that accompanies a cool bit of talk and conversation. And it won't always be just me talking to you for 3 hours. I mean, normally I would have somebody else that I would be interviewing, and you wouldn't just have to be listening to me. You could listen to somebody who was smarter than me, and I'll just ask them, try to ask them smart questions. So with that in mind, in a couple of weeks, I don't know who I'm going to have, but I guarantee it's going to be something good. I have a couple of things in mind, but I'm not going to say anything about it because I don't want to disappoint anyone, because I really haven't approached the two gentlemen that I'd like to talk. I have one at the top of my list, and then I have another one right below that. And if the first guy can't do it, then I'm going to go with the second guy. And if I can't go with the second one's a girl. But regardless, hopefully in 2 weeks we'll have a good program from you or for you, and it won't just be me. Okay. So let's see. I talked a little bit about Kent Steadman. Wallace Black Elk, another reason why I'm here. He was a Native American medicine man who died in 2005 at a quite old age, 84, maybe 85. I had the great pleasure and privilege to call him my grandfather, and he was a big part of my life in the early 2000s, and taught me the ways of the Lakota and a lot about the history of our nation that I was not familiar with. And he was a really cool guy who knew a lot about a lot of things. He could still speak Lakota, one of the few people who could still speak the language. There are very few who can today, and it's a shame because it's a loss of history. But anyway, he could talk about quantum mechanics just as easy as he could talk about what it was like to carry the chanupa and smoke a peace pipe. And he was a great influence on me, again, during a time in my life when I sort of needed some guidance, and I sure appreciate everything that he taught me and shared with me. And again, I would not be here talking with you guys if it wasn't for him. And so, hey ho, Grandfather Wallace, good man. Don't forget about your ancestors, people, and your old folks. They're where the history is, where the memories are, and they can teach you a lot if you give them the time. Give them the time to teach you. Okay, we got 3 minutes. Who else? Terrence McKenna, I guess. I can't say I'd be here without Terrence either. And it's another one of those things where a great friend and a mentor and a teacher and someone who I miss a lot, and I wonder what he would think about what's going on. All this, all these people that I'm talking about, I speak about them with great reverence and nostalgia, and just just love. I mean, they're just my friends and guys that I just loved. They weren't gods or prophets, they were men, and they weren't right about everything. Like I've had people give me such a hard time about Terrence over the years. Gosh, I mean, you can be a good person and a smart person and a compassionate person and not be right about everything. I mean, show me somebody who has been right about everything. They don't exist. We're all doing the best we can, with limited amount of information and in a situation that we did not define for ourselves. So anyway, Terrence McKenna, if you're not familiar with him, he was a writer and a great public speaker, extremely eloquent speaker. He was a philosopher of sorts, and just a good man, someone who I was fortunate enough to call my friend, and he taught me a bunch of stuff too. So during the course of the program, as we go along, I kind of do this. I probably won't do it like I did tonight because it's real personal tonight, and but there are great men and women throughout our history, and in my opinion, the greatest among them don't get mentioned very often. And so on this program, at least during a little bit of the program, every time we're on the air, we'll spend a little time talking about somebody who was with us but isn't with us any longer, but added something to the whole mix. All right. It's KOPN Columbia. It's 1:00 in the morning on the 25th of September. My name is Mike Hagan. You listen to Radio Orbit, and this is Paul Weber and the Scrappers.
style. He was running wild as fast as he can. Broke the law in Arkansas and in Louisiana. In denial for a while, and then became aware that a crime here or a crime there is a crime everywhere. When you kill a man in a small town, his ghost will follow you around. I know that fading face, 'cause I've seen its open glow. You look slightly out of place from 15 years ago. And you are worse than the dead-end curse that haunt my halls at night. 'Cause I see you in the streets out in the broad daylight. When you lie with a girl in a small town, I will follow you around. And there's nothing that you can't say that'll shoo these ghosts away. And I know why they pray. They don't share this trouble they. Well, in the basement on the floor, behind the linen closet door, by the river in the woods you'd hide if you could. But this old world is an old house, and ghosts will follow you around. The ticking clock, it clicks and it marks us how far you've gotta go. Shame will rot, quick and hot in the breeze and in the snow. When you hide it deep inside, you'll never decompose. And this old life is a short ride, and we're headed to who knows. And there's nothing that you can't say that'll shoo these ghosts away. And I know why they pray. They don't share trouble fate. When you kill a man in a small town, his ghost will follow you around.
Yeah. All right, that one's called Ghosts. That's Paul Weber and the Scrappers. You're listening to it here on Radio Orbit, KOPN Columbia, 89.5 FM. The phone number here is 573-443-8255. That's 573-443-8255. If you'd like to get involved in the program, I'd love to hear from you. It's been a long time since I've taken phone calls. It was great to hear from Deborah a little bit earlier, and I'd love to hear from you as well. And in the meantime, I will talk a little bit about what I'm thinking about doing as things go forward. You know, I mentioned Terrence before, and Wallace and Kent, these guys that were sort of my foundation for a lot of the things that I think and the way that I look at the world and things like that. But they also are all gone, and as many insights as I got from them, they were not all right, and many of the things that I talked about on the program back in the early days, and again, all of the earlier programs are available on my website at mikehagan.com if you want to get a load of what we used to do. But some of that stuff even when I was doing it, I thought maybe, wow, this is the most incredible thing I've ever done. And then it turns out that now I really don't think so. The test of time is a brutal teacher, and time will show you in many cases, what's right and what's wrong. So anyway, it's a learning experience to have to go through recognizing that the people that you love, look up to, learned from, etc., weren't infallible. Wow, they actually made some mistakes, and they weren't right about everything. And it seems simple, but it really is harder. It's sort of hard. We all have, if we're lucky, we have somebody that we really look up to over the course of our lives, and we do tend to put that person or those persons on a pedestal and think that they're they're infallible and they could never do any wrong. But the truth is, that's just not the truth. It doesn't take anything away from what they are able to contribute to you and your life and your understanding of the world. That's all well and good, but you have to be able to put it back in that perspective to recognize that nobody really has all the answers, and that goes for me too. I don't have all the answers, and there was a time when I really thought that I did, frankly. And like I said, the test of time shows you what you know and what you don't know. So it's a lesson for all of us, I think. All right. So typically, like I said, what we'll do is normally the first hour of the program we'll spend talking about the news, and I plan on talking about things like artificial intelligence, like a lot of the emerging technologies. But I want to try to somehow find a way to wrap that into the natural world, because everything has to happen here on the earth, and no matter how fancy the tech gets, it still has to operate under the rules of planet Earth. I've been playing music from Paul and the Scrappers all night, and Paul himself is an organic farmer, and he runs an operation called Three Creeks. I believe it's called Three Creeks Organic Farm. Anyway, I know it's Three Creeks, but I don't know it's an organic farm that it's run down on the south side, down by Ashland over there. And he operates that farm with a young woman who is his sort of life partner, and they do super cool stuff right here, in mid-Missouri, cutting edge organic farming. And at the same time, the guy's a fantastic musician, writing great traditional country songs like we've been listening to all night. And there's stuff like that happening all around here and happening all around the world. And those are the things that we have to sort of, bring together. Art and technology, they're really not as separate, I think, as people might think. Technology is certainly an art, just like farming is. And so I'm going to try to bring a whole bunch of different stuff together on this program, and from week to week it'll seem very different, but at the same time, hopefully there'll be sort of common threads that sort of run throughout the whole thing, and we can all maybe learn a little bit here or there. So anyway, it's about 10 after 1 o'clock on the 25th of September. Radio Orbit, KOPN Columbia 89.5 FM. I probably should read this. KOPN thanks the businesses, professionals, and organizations that underwrite us. Those people play an important part in the community radio station's financial health. And if you visit a KOPN underwriter, please let them know that you appreciate their support of this station. More information about underwriting with KOPN is available at kopn.org or by calling 573-874-1139. That is something that I would love to do, is to get an underwriter for this program. If we could go to the management of the station and say that so-and-so is going to underwrite Radio Orbit for X number of dollars a month, and it's very reasonable, I can assure you. That'd be great if somebody was interested in doing that. We're looking for some businesses or professionals that might be interested in having a little bit of, well, first of all, you get a little of exposure on the air here because I'll talk about you, but also you do a good thing by supporting and underwriting a cool show on KOPN. All right. So if you want to do that, give us a call, 874-1139, or get a hold of me. All right. And we'll figure out a way to get you involved in KOPN here. Okay. And in fact, there are a number of people I know that we already are talking about things like that with, so I appreciate that. Oh my gosh, I want to say thank you. First of all, it's 1:15 in the morning. I'm saying first of all, but anyway, happy birthday to my friend Diana Moxon. She is a fellow programmer here at the station. I also do a radio program on Friday mornings. I do a show called Open Mic Radio where I feature live music in the studio here, and we kind of talk to the musicians and do interviews and stuff like that. But the program after mine, that's at 9 o'clock on Friday mornings. But anyway, at 10 o'clock after my program, there's a woman who does a program called Speaking of the Arts, and her name is Diana Moxon, and her birthday is today, or well, yesterday. It was the 24th, and her husband Tom and Diana were nice enough to invite me over to their place earlier tonight, along with a bunch of other friends, to celebrate Diana's birthday, and it was a lot of fun, and I sure appreciate the invite and had a good time over there. So anyway, if you are listening to this radio station on Friday mornings, you can hear me at 9 o'clock, and then and Diana after that with Speaking of the Arts at 10 o'clock. Once again, 573-443-8255. I'd love to hear from you if you got the gumption to call, something to say, anything on your mind. Really, we can kind of open lines like old Art Bell used to do. I don't care what you got to talk about. I'd love to say hi. All right. Okay. Let's see. What else we got to talk? Oh, here's something that I saw the other day, and I'm hoping to get this guy on the program at some point, the guy who's behind this. But there was a real cool story that came out about a group of doctors and scientists that were trying to build a bionic eye. I think it happened at Princeton. Let me see if I can get this, if I can find it on the computer here really quick. Okay, hold on. Prototype bionic eye. Yeah, okay. All right. When he was an assistant professor at Princeton University, Michael McAlpin led the development of a 3D printed bionic ear. Now an associate professor at the University of Minnesota, he's gone on to 3D print a rudimentary bionic eye, and it could eventually lead to versions capable of replacing real human eyes. A McAlpin-led team began with a hemispherical glass dome, similar in size and shape to the back of a human eye. Using a custom-built 3D printer, they then added strips of an ink containing silver particles. Interesting. The ink successfully dried in place, as opposed to running down the inside of the dome and pooling at the bottom. Finally, over the top of that ink base, they printed a layer of semiconducting polymer. The result was an array of 3D printed photodiodes, which are capable of converting light into an electrical current. McAlpin's team is now planning on boosting the efficiency and incorporating many more of the photodiodes into a single dome. Ultimately, it's hoped that the technology could be used to create a fully functioning bionic eye, which would restore a blind recipient's vision by stimulating the optic nerve in response to the perception of light. Wow. So no longer theoretical, they're actually building bionic eyes. Steve Austin. Here we come. This is happening throughout, the entire sphere of human activity. Technology is just going wild. What is it going to do? What is the end result? There are people who are frightened to death, literally think that it's, the end of humanity, that humankind is developing the technology that will put an end to humankind. Now that that sort of requires a caveat, because I sort of fall into that camp, actually. But the way that I look, in other words, people are looking at it as the end of it all. In other words, the end of our race, and that nothing continues after that. That it's, maybe the iguanas take over or something, or some other species might arise up and take our place. I am more of the mind that we think that we're developing technology and understanding that is going to advance ourselves. And the idea of transhumanism is one thing that we'll probably touch on in the program over the next, months. There is a great effort on two sides, on both sides here. You have the pro side and the con side, as always. So you have the transhumanists who are hell bent on using technology as a way out. That technology is the panacea. Technology is the solution to the problems that we're facing here as a global culture. And then you have, on the other side of that, you have the people that are saying no, the technology is going to do nothing but harm us. Look what it's done already. Technology is what's gotten us in this boat to begin with, and we need to stop it, deny it, and do whatever we can to resist it. So I sort of think that they're both. I sort of think they're both a little bit off base, and again, I always go back to the idea that we are really not in charge of what's going on here, and I have to believe, based on what I know about history, that the human species is not just going to disappear. I actually do think that there is something extremely unique and special about us. I don't think we're the same as the whales and the bumblebees. I do recognize that there are other species on this planet that are extremely advanced and have high intelligence and perhaps even language, but it is not what we do, and that is one of our biggest problems, is that we can't stand the way that we are. We're the only species that's so self-loathing that many members of our own species are calling for our own demise all the time. Like I was saying earlier in the program, the din of the voices screaming, bad humans. I hear it all the time. I hear it, I hear it around the corner every day. I hear it on the radio. I hear it on TV all the time. It's all about how bad we are. Well, again, I say, well, if we're bad humans, we're not responsible for the fact that we're human. We are not responsible for the fact that we're here. We are not responsible for anything except what we do while we're here, and even that can be argued. But I'll concede that one for now, that we're responsible for what we do while we're here. And whether we are, whether that's actually true or not, it's a good way to live. It's a good way to live because it actually imparts some responsibility on you. But I don't think that you should wear the responsibility of the whole thing, and there's a whole lot of that these days. People just wearing the weight of the world. It's, oh my God, we're just ruining everything, and my gosh, if you drive to work and burn a gallon of gasoline, you're whipping yourself on the back because you're contributing to climate change. It's like, look, that is not the weight that is to be worn. You were born into this situation, and you do the best while you're here with what you got, and try not to wear it too heavily. The beating up of oneself, is good to a certain extent, because we have to sort of be critical self-inspection is something that perhaps there isn't enough of. But once you figure that out, you can kind of give yourself a break and just do the best you can with what you got. And there are plenty of small things, that can be done all the time just to help the general public, just the way people feel. I mean, just a nice smile on the street, just saying hello to people, makes a huge difference. I see it all the time. I do my best when I'm out and about, just to try to at least make eye contact and smile and say hi. And you know what? Most of the time, people are surprised that you did it. and then their second response is to do it back. So it's really bizarre the way that we live now. People are buried with their heads in their cell phones, and we're supposed to be so connected to everything, and yet at the same time, there's just a major disconnect between ourselves and even those that are right around us. I'm a big fan of Marshall McLuhan, who was a brilliant author and philosopher, and somebody who was really sort of in his heyday in the mid 50s and late 50s, in the late 50s, early 60s. But McLuhan was an expert on media and was very interested in the way information was moving, around the planet and from person to person. And he was an extreme studier of the early days of television, of radio, and anticipated the internet revolution. And he actually coined a term that, and I forget which book it was. It may have been The Technological Marriage, or it may have been that first book on media. But at any rate, the term that he used was narcissus narcosis. Narcissus narcosis. Marshall McLuhan coined that in probably 1956 or 57 or something like that, right? And he anticipated that technology would become device-like, and that people would pour all of their attention into those devices in order to get a response back for themselves. And this is nothing less than the like on Facebook or the red heart on your Instagram post. It was described 50 years ago, 60 years ago by McLuhan. He saw it coming. And we are all, the great majority of us are subject to it. It's an addiction that nobody realized would happen, and by the time you realize you're addicted to it, it's over. And the smartphone and social media and the access to information that people have now is an addiction, and you can see it on the streets every day. There are streets in Europe now where they put the crossing signals on the ground. They put the lights on the ground because everybody's looking down at their cell phones when they cross the street. So literally people were being hit by vehicles, I'm sure it's happened here. But anyway, the solution in like Denmark and in some of the Scandinavian countries, they're putting like these LED lights just underneath the pavement, and then covering them with like a nice thick slice of polyurethane or something like that, and so you can see if it's red or green when you're staring down at your cell phone, and you won't walk across the street hypothetically and get hit by a bus. All right, so yeah. Narcissus narcosis is definitely a major factor now in modern global culture, and I'm not sure where all this is leading. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to come back on the air, because I'm fascinated by just the mayhem of it all. I mean, nobody knows what's going on. The ability to use technology now is becoming privatized to the point where an individual, not just a small company, but an individual with the resources and with a little bit of brain power can start messing with genetic models, not to mention biotechnology and artificial intelligence. And, it's really, really sort of just a, no holds barred situation. Legislation, I mean, to look to government at this point, for any kind of guidance or regulation is just like, to me, it's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, the government and politics is just wrapped up in just this ludicrousness. I mean, in the meantime, there's all kinds of things that are happening under the radar that they have absolutely no control over. And, everybody's talking about what's going on and who's going to be the Supreme Court judge. You know what? It ain't going to matter. Pretty soon. I mean, you can legislate whatever you want, but the legislation is going to be so far behind the technology. It already is, but pretty soon it's going to become. I mean, it's going to make it sort of obsolete. I think there are things on the horizon that are. Really going to change things. One of the things that I'd like to talk about on this program, I mentioned, some of the topics that we'll cover. I talked about robotics and AI and man-machine interfaces and, new designer drugs and this type of thing. I also want to talk about cryptocurrency because I am very interested in the technologies behind Bitcoin and blockchain technology in general. And I think that's something that we're going to talk about on this program as well. So anyway, we got about a half hour left. So let's get one more in here from the Scrappers. And another great song off their record that was released in 2017, I believe it was. And it was just called Paul Weber and the Scrappers. And if you get a chance to see them around town, please do. They're fantastic. And I hope to hear some more music from them in the next year or so. All right, in the meantime, it's Mike. You're listening to Radio Orbit on KOPN Columbia. This one is called Half Loved. Once again, Paul Weber and the Scrappers on Radio Orbit.
Smoked end of a cigarette, or the half cup of coffee you pour then forget, or beer half empty from the night before, or the pennies change from a dollar bill, or the last few hours of the day to kill, since you told me you don't love me anymore. Just a half-loved heart, a half-finished start, a half-written story of love. Oh, half-read book, a half-smiled look, a half-loved heart is all I've got. Some melody or a half-remembered memory or a gift half-opened on Christmas Day. Oh, half-baked idea, a half-inflated wheel. I'm the half-alive man you turned away. Just a half-loved heart, a half-finished start, a half-written story of love. Half-read book, a half-smiled look, oh, half-loved heart is all I've got.
It's called Half Loved. Another one from Paul Weber and the Scrappers off their self-titled release from 2017. Keep your eyes and ear on those guys, all right? Okay, it's Mike. You're listening to Radio Orbit. It's about 1:35. Not quite. 1:33 in the morning here on September the 25th of 2018. Stick around for the Witching Hour. Stephen will be with you here in about 25 minutes or so, and I'll be with you until then. I would like to give out the email address and, the phone number once again, okay? So 573-443-8255. We got 25 minutes. I'd still love to say hi. If you want to call, please do, and I'll pick up right away. And if not, you'll try again another time, all right? In the meantime, I will mention my email address is orbitradio@aol.com. Yep, I still use AOL. All the spooks do, and always have. So you can reach me there, orbitradio@aol.com, or you can go to the website, Mike Hagan, MikeHagan.com, and you can connect with me through there. There's a contact button and all that stuff, all right? And the website, I do hope to bring it up to snuff. If you go there now, you'll see. Well, it's current, but it's just old. It just looks the way that it always looked back in the day. But all the archives are there, and if anybody who's listening to this program is curious as to what we used to do, you can go there and you can check that out. Okay. Again, that's Mike Hagan, HAGAN.com, and the email orbitradio@aol.com. So with that in mind, I am always interested in getting new music and new art, and by that I mean visual art, poetry, obviously music. Sculpture is a little tough on the radio, but even for visual stuff, we will post that stuff up on the website. And for visual art, if you've got something at a gallery or something like that, I'd be glad to share that information. And if you're a poet or somebody who's a writer or a musician, certainly get your material to me, and we'll figure out a way to get you involved in the program, okay? And again, you can do that. Just send me an email or do it through the website at MikeHagan.com, all right? All right, the website here for the radio station, KOPN.org. The show is always streaming there, KOPN.org, 24/7. Great work recently here at the station. A lot of good things happening here, and I'm really glad to be back at it. And we'll see how things go as we move forward. I talked about that bionic eye that was that the guys are making. What else do I have here to mention? Unless someone calls me, I'll have to come up with something to take up a few minutes here. Here's an interesting one. The world's smallest transistor switches current with a single atom in solid state. Now, this is a nanotechnology story, and I'm into nanotech too. Here at Missouri, at the university, they have one of the nation's leading nanotech departments in the sciences, in the School of Sciences, and they do a whole bunch of Department of Defense contracts, and I'm sure some medical stuff, and it's extremely interesting. Again, this stuff has many sides. Technology in general, can be used for for positive or negative reasons or results. You can use fire. Certainly one of the most important discoveries in human history as far as technology goes, and I consider fire a technology that was discovered. Fire can be used in a very beneficial way, in a way that's extremely benevolent, or it can be used in a very violent way that's malevolent. Fire can destroy. In fact, most weaponry is based on fire. Every bullet, when it comes out of the muzzle of a gun, there's a fire behind it. Same thing with cannons, obviously, and even higher end things like laser technology now. I mean, it's really just a focusing of light, which is really fire. I mean, that's really what it is. So anyway, technology can be used for the good of man or for the destruction of man, and usually it's used for both. At least historically, that's the case. And it's really interesting, in a philosophical sense, because you really can see, if you look backwards, you go, damn, all along it's like been this development of stuff, new utilization of resources for the betterment of mankind, for higher levels of comfort and happiness and security. And at the same time, those same technologies are used, to tear all of those things apart. And it seems like something that's sort of almost built into the experience here is I guess that's the duality that everybody always talks about, the two-sidedness of things, and how does that pan out? I mean, does it go on forever like that? To me, it seems like probably not. I don't see how it can. But I was saying that years ago too. So who knows? But in a more general sense, you have technology being developed, and it's getting extremely sophisticated and really hard to kind of keep a rope around. And those technologies that are being developed, no different than fire, or the first use of electricity. Those things can be used for both good and for bad, and that has not changed. Technology is rolling along right now, and people will still put their own agenda behind it. And as I was talking about earlier, it's crazy because now, the ability to do some pretty sophisticated stuff is available to the average person if they have the knowledge and the will. I was speaking to a friend last night who just got a new 3D printer. And I actually have one of these at work, and the one that I have at work is a pretty low-end model. It's not a very good one, but even with that, it's super cool, and you can do you can do a lot of stuff with it. And really, the imagination is what limits that. You can do whatever your imagination can come up with and make a design for. Now, there's a whole another thing that's called the universe of things, or the Internet of Things, or the Thingiverse, as some people call it. Now, that is essentially just an archive, and basically a big database where people upload their 3D designs. And then if you want to make something, you can go to the Internet of Things, or the Thingiverse, and you can essentially use it like a search engine. You can say, this is what I'm looking for, and you can see if somebody has uploaded a design that's compatible with what you're looking to do. And if they don't, well, then they don't. Then you can make it yourself, then you can upload it, and then if somebody else wants it, they can download it. But the point is, this is becoming an extremely diverse set of data. 3D printing is another thing that we'll talk about on the program here from time to time. And in fact, there are a couple of guys that are really on the front end of this as far as the development side. There's a guy at MIT that I really would like to talk to. They're doing something at MIT. They're doing 3D printing with like 9 different materials. Like not just plastic, okay? Like they're printing with plastic, ceramic, metal, glass, polymers. And it doesn't take much of an imagination to think that if you can 3D print with multiple materials, especially metals, ceramic, glass, really, you can do a whole lot of things. And the imagination is really the only thing that's going to limit, how that moves forward. Again, you can legislate all you want, But if the guy has the 3D printer in his garage, I mean, I'm sorry, it's very hard. It's very hard to enforce that legislation. The decentralized nature of many of the new technologies is really going to be a game changer. I mentioned cryptocurrency before the break. The decentralized nature of Bitcoin is, well, it's the main reason why it's still here. And Bitcoin was invented, or actually kind of brought into the world about 10 years ago. And everybody who learned about it along the way was skeptical and said, well, there's no way that this thing can last. There's no way that it can survive. And it has. It has. And we're going to take a phone call here, since somebody had the guts to call us, and we'll say hello. Welcome to Orbit. Who's this?
This is Deborah again.
Oh, hi.
Hi. And the things that you have been talking about as far as the technology and devices and storing information and data and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think about, what if the Akashic record is not just in the sky, but what about our use of crystals and the many layers of civilizations of human and non-human life? What is stored in those crystals? And why haven't we put much effort into really figuring out what might be in those buried crystals and, the silicon, the metals, everything? There's something else about the entelechy of the earth and the cosmos around it that it's not just human-centered. And most, we study DNA, that's human-centered levels of it. Something that, whatever our sciences are, it's, pretty much to serve. Who does it serve? It serves Homo sapiens. To me, it's sappers.
Yeah.
Human.
Yeah.
If you put human together with the two words EU, it means wholeness, and it means both male and female. It means the principles of the feminine and the masculine, but it also incorporates the other principles. So it's something a lot more whole than whatever we are right now. But whatever we do, it's always just self-interest and serving.
Well,
most people haven't reached the kind of humanity that maybe was deeper and older than we are, and it's stored somewhere. And I can't articulate things very well. I'm kind of tired, but I've been listening, and I just thought I'd bring that up because it's very central to this culture that is this technology that's developing itself using these metals and these crystals and taking them for granted. So anyhow, but I just wanted to say that.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Deb.
Bye.
All right, bye. Well, and she brings up an interesting point. The Earth and the other species that are not human, the whole thing makes up this big, giant web. And the information isn't just on the internet. I mean, the whole natural world is that's the real internet, the web of life, the web of life that that binds all of us. That we are all part of the same thing, and this is something that comes out in Native American mythology. Really takes a prevalent position, but also in most early mythologies. I mean, I think all around the world. If you go back to the early ideas, and by that I mean things that happened, shortly after the High Neolithic, before language got so separated, and before the idea of civilization really took hold, the city-state, all those types of things. There was a better understanding of the symbiosis of the entire system, rather than just the monkey side of it. And I remember years ago, my friend Dennis McKenna said, the monkeys just think they're running the show, but they're not. They just think they are. And that still holds, in my opinion. The monkeys still think they're running the show, and they're still not. The question is, what is running the show, if anything, and where is it going? And I've recalled the metaphor of like the runaway train on a dark, stormy night. That's sort of the way that I look at the world as it is, and the humankind and our adventure on Earth right now. I think that's the best metaphor that I can come up with. It's a runaway train on a dark, stormy night, and we're all on the train. And you may not like some people on the train, and they may not like you, and you may love other people on the train, and they may love you, but we're all on the train, and I'm not sure that anyone is driving it, and I think it's going to end up where it's going to end up. Now the question is, does it run into another train or a brick wall, or does it just pull up into Bern? Switzerland, I mean, or some other beautiful place. It's hard to say. I have mixed feelings, and over the course of this program, we'll delve more into this, hopefully, and hopefully we'll get some more people involved and talk more about who we are and what we're doing here and where we're going and how we might better make our way. All right, it's about 10 minutes until 2 o'clock in the morning. I'll chat for a few more minutes here. I'll tell you one more time, the phone number, 573-443-8255. If you'd like to call, we'll get a couple more calls in before the end of the hour. We certainly can do that if somebody'd like to call. If not, I'll be back on the air doing this program in 2 weeks, and you can catch Jay Tutenberg, who does a show same time next Monday, playing some really cool rock and roll music for you. It's like I don't know if he actually has named the show yet, but it's a sort of a classic rock show, but it's not the stuff that you would normally hear, real sort of deep track sort of stuff, and real neat music that you probably aren't real familiar with. So anyway, you can catch Jay next Monday, and I'll be back with you, like I said, 2 weeks from today, and we'll have a guest with us when we come back on the air in 2 weeks, and we'll do a nice long interview with somebody who's got hopefully something interesting and fun to say. All right, like I said, I've got a couple ideas for who I want to have on the program. I just got to see if I can pull it off. All right. Okay. One more time, the website, Mike Hagan, MikeHagan.com. The email, orbitradio@aol.com, and regardless of what you send me, I'd be glad to read it and respond. And again, for contributions for art and music and poetry or anything of the like, be sure you send that to me, because that's part of what this program is going to be doing, is trying to share not just information, but also art and music with you guys. And most of what I like to share comes from right around here. So if you are a musician or an artist and you have something that you'd like to share, please don't be afraid. Get in touch with me, and I'd be glad to share your stuff with other people. Okay. All right. Let's see. What else? Anything else here? Well, one more time, I'll say thank you to all the people that made this possible. Kent, miss you so much. Terrence, Wallace, all the guys and girls that have come before me and before you. That's why we're all here. We wouldn't be where we are without those who came before us, and none of us have a perfect background, and none of us have a perfectly ugly one either. There's quite a bit of history behind every human on this planet, and we're all in it together. We're all doing the best we can. Don't forget about those that came before you. Think about yourselves and think about those who are coming after. In the Native American tradition, there's a a concept of 7 generations. They say whatever it is that you do, you should be thinking ahead 7 generations, and how is this going to affect the people who are here 7 generations from now. And that was a central part of the the philosophy of living with the land, the philosophy of living with the earth as a partner and a component of the earth, not as a dominator of the earth. The Christian tradition, and words are interesting because just a little bit of a difference in a word can make all the difference in the way it's interpreted. The word dominion is way different than the word dominate. They're not the same. And for man to have dominion over the earth is different than for man to dominate the earth. Dominion is a stewardship, a partnership, a recognition of the larger picture, the larger web of which everyone is a part, of which everything is a part, and not just the biological parts. The rocks and the stones play a role too, because they eventually become biology, over time. Things break down and become new things. And I guess maybe that's a good place to end the program. This is an old program that has now become a new thing, and I hope to keep going with it for a while, and we'll see where it goes. I won't make any promises. The last time I stopped doing this program, it was very abruptly, I can't say what I'll do after this program tonight, but I certainly do plan on coming back 2 weeks from now, and I enjoy doing it. It's great to be back on the air, and I'll speak with y'all in a couple weeks. All right, stick around, like I said, for the Witching Hour with Stephen coming up in just a few minutes. In the meantime, we'll have one more here from Paul Weber and the Scrappers, and this song is called "Who I Was." And it's actually written by a friend of ours named Matt Barnes. And although he doesn't actively play with Paul and the Scrappers, he's a great musician, great guitar player, and a really good songwriter who's been around these parts for a long time. And I'd like to actually get Matt on Open Mic Radio one of these days, and see if he'll come down and play some songs for us and talk a little bit. But in the meantime, this is one that Matt wrote for Paul. I don't know if he wrote it for Paul, but he definitely wrote it, and Paul and the Scrappers recorded it. This is it. It's called "Who I Was." You've been listening to KOPN Columbia 89.5 FM. My name is Mike Hagan. This has been Radio Orbit. I'll be back in 2 weeks, and we'll talk to you then.
I used to be happy, stood strong and tall, till I took a running start right into your wall. That's how it felt, that's how it feels. Used to stand strong and tall, now I'm lucky if I can kneel. Well, I used to go out and have good times. Now I go to the bar, stand in the corner and cry. That's what you did, that's what you do. Used to have good times, now they're over because of you. ignorance is bliss. That saying is true. If you don't believe me, I'm happy for you. That's who I was. This is who I